For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan, the dad, Mr. Greenthumb, and you are?
And of course, I am James DeFreitas here, and we are here every week for you. And of course, this show is on Sunday mornings from 8 to 9 in the morning, and then of course it repeats on Saturday evenings, if there are no Gator games, at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. So we've got the early birds, and we've got the people that like to stay up a little late, the night owls, as they say. And so one of the things that I would remind people is if you have a gardening question, we are the easiest people in the world to get a hold of because you can just point your browser to askmrgreenthumb.com. That's ASKMR greenthumb.com. Once you're on the webpage, you can click on the Ask button and you can submit a question directly from your phone. Why is that cool? Because let's say you've taken some photos of that, plant that you want to ID, or a bug you want to ID, or something that's going on with your tree. Let's say you see little BB holes, sawdust or sap in your oak tree. Maybe you've got something eating your tree. And if that's the case, you can send us a photo and we can tell you in advance what's going wrong with your tree and what treatment options you may have available. And if you do want to have somebody come out and take a look at your tree for a tree consultation, that is something that we do. You can contact Stan DeFreitas at 727-423-4794. That's 727-423-4794. And, I think that's really helpful information.
I do. I think one of the things I might mention to folks is I started doing a little bit of put a few veggies in the other day, and partly because James had built me a box. He knew that my mobility is a bit of a problem over the last number of years now, and I still like to try to putter, and it's hard for me to putter now as much as I did. Hate to admit that, but, that's part of what the world is. One of the things, James built me a neat box, and you probably can see it online.
We did a whole YouTube segment on what I call the Lifetime box. And basically what we did is I built the side panels out of PVC, the bottom panels I built out of Trex, and the support columns on the corners were built out of aluminum. Now, it's not the cheapest thing in the world to build, but you never have to build it again. Now, one of the things I might suggest to people, having done that, if you go to, Ask Mr. Greenthumb on, searching in the YouTube thing, which you can easily do, you just type in Ask Mr. Greenthumb, and you'll see that the, Lifetime, I forgot what the title of it was, but it's basically, making a box that you can grow stuff out of. And the cool thing about it is, it's kind of a once and done. Which is unusual when it comes to a planter box. Most planter boxes are made out of wood. A lot of them are made out of cedar. And those will rot. I know cedar probably has a good reputation out west where the moisture level is low, but we're in Florida where the moisture level is always high. And so therefore, you always want to think about the materials. So even building decks, the less wood that's used in them, the better. Otherwise you could and will have a problem. So
sure, and it works. And the nice thing about getting something up off the ground, I did also put in a couple of my old earth boxes. I'll give them a free plug. One of my neighbors who bought a bunch of stuff for his earth box just the other day down at 23. 11 Gillette Road in Ellington by the Discount Mall. You'll see it down there. Look it up online. Mm-hmm. We'll give them a free plug because I know one of their workers says they listen to us religiously every week. Somebody said, why are they not supporting you? I can say, well, they will probably. So when you go in there, say, I'm here because of listening to this Mr. Greenthumb.
Mr. Greenthumb.
And his son. So come on down there. If you buy some stuff, remember you mentioned Stan. Remember you mentioned Mr. Greenthumb. And that will remind them why their dear friend should be part of their program too. I do like the product. It's recycled plastic. It's up off the ground. The reason they invented it is that they got caught with floods. Now, we sometimes get like Noah's Ark where we get too much water. And the box is great because you're above the ground. Now, I know most of the time we're worried about getting more water to things, but it's got a filler tube. It's got a little area, reservoir in the bottom where it'll hold moisture and it'll kind of wick it up through the soil. So I put out some lettuce yesterday. I put out some lettuce. I put out some tomatoes, some broccoli, and some cabbage.
Okay.
And I just figured, probably, retail value of 1.5 million when you go to the store. But I'm looking at inflationary times. But remember, there is no inflation. It's all because the man behind the curtain. And I know you think things are more expensive, but they really aren't. Anyway, I've decided that I'm going to start growing a few things again because it's still, I get pleasure out of it. As one of my neighbor, John, has a sign up that says, yes, it's expensive to garden, but it's cheaper than therapy.
That's very true. Very true.
And it is therapy.
And it is a type of therapy. That's exactly what I was going to say. And again, one of the comments that gets thrown out to us all the time is gardening and real estate. How do those two go together? And the reason that they go together really nicely is that you will never really care about a garden unless you own a piece of real estate. Now, that's not to say that renters don't do some gardening. I don't want to cast aspersions and say everything a blanket statement, but typically, on a whole, percentage basis wise, most people think about gardening more when it's theirs. And when it's not theirs, then they start to wonder whether or not how much they want to invest in something like that because they may be more transient in terms of their lifestyles. They may be here for a few years. Maybe they work maybe they're part of the, U.S. servicemen, or women, and they're in a situation where they're going to be stationed somewhere for a year or two. Well, that's a pretty good indicator that they may be, renting, but that doesn't mean they don't like gardening. It just means they may not have the same amount of space or the same desire to do it, and they may not have the time to do it either.
Right.
Let's also remember part of the reason that gardening, is, a little bit of an older hobby, and it's because older people have a little more free time to do those kinds of things. And the younger people that we meet, it's changing on us. I mean, one of and again, the glass half full kind of person here. One of the cool things about COVID, if there is such a cool thing about it, is we had a lot more people work from home.
Sure.
And, well, what's an aspect of working from home? Well, you look around your home more, and you start going, wow, that backyard looks a little naked.
I could put this here, put that there. I could grow a few veggies. I could grow a fruit tree.
Right.
And I think they're all good projects. And I get a kick out of it. I mean, I know there's some work involved, but, I can sit in a chair often. And now I find myself moving a chair where I wouldn't have ever in my younger days, would always been running all around. But I've always loved gardening since I was a kid, kid even. And I find a lot of kids, when I see young kids look at a garden, their eyes twinkle. They go, wow, look at that. And that is worth it alone. For parents, grandparents out there, get your kids out of the house, get them off the computer, get them out of their phone, and say, look, there's a whole playground out there that's been given to us. And look at that beauty that's there. And I know everybody goes, oh, tell my kids the world's going to end. And they got spy balloons and we're going to fight China and all this other stuff. Don't worry about it. If it happens, get ready for that.
Right. Well, and on that idea of a playground, I mean, I was thinking just the other day as you were having me do some repair work on your deck, parents take their kids to the beach and make sandcastles and stuff, but you gave me the ability to repair your deck, and because of that, I was shoveling some dirt aside, and I kept thinking to myself, well, this is a little playground that Stan gave me to work right here in his front yard while I'm helping to repair a little section of his deck, and I'm thinking, wow, I should be paying him because it's so much more fun.
See, I gave you the gift. Now, not every parent does, but when I hired a couple clowns that weren't licensed and didn't know how to put a roof on, lied to me.
You wouldn't hire someone that's not licensed.
Well, they said they were, and then when they couldn't, I got you up there and I said you were drafted. And you and I put a roof on.
After we applied for the proper permits.
And we did have a permit. In fact, the building inspector came out and said, you guys were, I think, a 16th of an inch off over 40 feet. He said, you guys did a better job than the companies I've been looking at down the road. And I said, well, of course we should, because we don't start, there won't be 25 beer cans out there by 9 a.m.
Not that all companies, workers drink beer at the end of the day. I'm sure they go home.
I'm talking about 9 a.m., but yeah.
They don't drink beer. They go home and smoke weed to get it right.
Could be.
Legal weed, I might say, as well.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
doctor prescription, it's all legal. So I don't want to cast aspersions on all roofers either.
Well, yeah, I won't.
Yeah.
I will say, having done a couple, it is a very tough job. And I understand why many of them do get their prescription for legal marijuana and have a couple of brews, because you will find muscles you didn't know you had.
It's very tough work. And again, one of the things that I hear all the time, and again, I think waitressing is a very tough job, and I think they earn every dollar that they get in tips, and people should probably over-tip, in my opinion. But there are jobs out there that are infinitely tougher, and one of those is working with concrete. Mm-hmm. Another one of those is roofing, even tile setters. If you've ever met a tile setter that didn't have back problems, then kudos to you, but most of them will have back problems because of the nature of that job. And I'm not saying that waitresses can't have back problems from lifting stuff.
Sal doesn't seem to have any back problems.
Sal de Blasi, yeah, he's a really famous YouTuber out there, and those that know, and those that don't, I'll look him up.
Saying who is he?
Yeah, I mean, well, if you go look up any of his videos, hi, this is Sal de Blasi from Boston.
Yeah. He has a unique sound.
He does. What's funny, though, is it's a good point, though, is it doesn't necessarily mean that his information is all dressed up, but yet he has hundreds of thousands of followers, and it's because the information is good. And it turns out providing good information online is your sole criteria. If it's done professionally and it's good information, well, it's a bonus.
And that's what we try to do right here on our show, the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show. We're going to come up with some tips on the other side of this on some things that might help save your plants when we do have some drought problems. Stay with us as the Plant Talk, Real Estate Talk continues right here.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at StaffordTreeSVC.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here every week to try to help you with real estate questions, gardening questions. I've been a horticulturist for most of my life. and certified arborist. I worked as an extension horticulturist.
Licensed pest control operator.
I'm a licensed certified pest control operator, took the test and passed it, which brings me to a point, something you looked up the other day, and I wasn't perfectly sure because there's been a lot of counterpoint on what they wanted to do with the law.
Well, the article that I did send you was 2012, so just keep that in mind. So I don't know what's taken place over the last, additional 11 years.
If somebody is doing any spraying with pesticides, if they're even injecting, in my opinion, with any pesticides, they should be a licensed CPO, and they should be, in my opinion, in lawn and ornamental.
Right.
Now, there was some talk about putting it into household, which makes no sense to me, but I wouldn't doubt that some, if the problem was sometimes they create laws without doing any kind of background thinking and checking before you make up a law, which how could anyone ever do that?
Right.
But one of the things I was going to mention, when you're going on vacations, and many people will, coming up spring and in the summer, is that you may want to think about taking even like we all have old T-shirts, that come to the point where, or towels, and you say, what do I do with it? It's too old. I don't want to use it anymore. I don't want to wear it anymore. You might cut them up, and you can kind of roll them out and make kind of a wicking system from that. If you're going to be gone for a few days and we don't get rain and you don't have an irrigation system, you might want to kind of make them like a rope, and you can put some little rubber bands around them, keep them tight, and then you can put them into a bucket. Let's say you've got 4 great plants that you really want to keep going. Either that, or you can kind of try to stick them under some partial shade. If you've got some shade from a big plant or tree, that makes it easier too. But if you've got plants in a small container, and let's say on your deck or whatever, and you can't get there because you're going to be gone for a period of time, either move them to where they're going to get some moisture from your sprinkler system, or you might think of using this wicking system and just putting some wicks into like a bucket of water and let that bucket of water kind of...
Right, kind of the way Steve Stanford does it with plants.
He uses a wicking system.
Yeah, and that way you don't even see how the plant is getting its water source. So that's kind of a neat thing that they do behind the scenes with plants. If you want to know more about how that works in application, go over to plants, plantz.com or plantz.us, depending upon which level of service you're interested in. And of course, they're now part of the Natura company, so we want to make sure that that's clear, which is great for Steve, and I'm glad for him. I'm sure that was a very successful negotiation that he negotiated for his company, and hats off to him if he's listening. Going back a little bit to what you were talking about when you first started, and you were talking specifically what's taking place with mow and go guys. And then let me just say this. I'm not casting aspersions against mow and go guys. I think they are the bedrock of what keeps our communities looking great, okay? These guys work hard. They often work long hours. It's a job where everybody has an opinion about how to do it, even though most people have only taken care of a tiny little space in their life. But yet everyone wants to give out their opinion on how to teach the yard guy how to stick edge and how to blow off the property and all of that. Well, unless you've been in a situation where you've done this, for a long period of time, again, you can put out your opinions all you want, but they work really hard and they get pretty good at what they do. So my thoughts on it is go easy on the judgments when it's your landscaper out there working hard in your behalf. The other thing I wanted to kind of briefly mention is something that has become much more prevalent today for lawn maintenance companies, and that is the idea that they apply for restricted use licenses. Okay, so for those that don't know, one of the ways that these landscaping companies can add an arsenal to their repertoire is of things that they can charge money for is they will get restricted use licenses. And those restricted use licenses can be either for fertilization programs or for restricted use pesticide licenses. But it doesn't mean they have carte blanche. When it says restricted use, it means just that. It's a very narrow application of how it can be applied. And some of those rules I thought I would go over a little bit. It says restricted use pesticide licenses are not valid for residential applications. Okay,
Right.
so that kind of keeps it pretty darn narrow. Okay, now you could make an argument, and I'm sure that this has been made. Are the common area structures in a large community still considered residential? Well, it's common area, so maybe that's considered more commercial. So maybe even within a residential community, there could still be considered technically commercial spaces. So that may be how that's being applied. I don't know that to be true. Check with a lawyer on that. The other thing I would say is they're not allowed, a restricted use pesticide license is not allowed for structural pest control, meaning you can't do anything around someone's property or inside their homes.
Right.
So you can't do that. If you're going to apply any kind of pesticide with a restricted use pesticide license, you can't be within 10 feet of any building, 10 feet. So there's another rule. And you absolutely are, these licenses are not valid for any public health pest control, mosquito control, and that kind of thing. So I just want to make people aware that yes, you may have sat for your restricted use pesticide license, but it's completely limited on what you can actually do with it. And it's done that for a reason. And it's done that because they want to protect licensed pest control operators.
Sure. When you start to advertise that, you're violating the law, and a lot of them do. A lot of them start going, they'll put it all over the vehicle, the trucks, their trailers. You know,
Their websites.
With their websites, we spray, we do stuff, we inject trees. They're not legal. And your restricted use license is basically, in the industry, we who are our licensed pest control operators call it the Roundup license. It was designed so some of the guys could backpack when they're doing mowing and blowing
for
and stuff.
herbicide.
It was not meant for them to start getting into applying pesticides around the grounds.
And in my opinion, that is being abused on a vast scale because it's not being reported. The other issue is too, and I hate to bark at I assume that you'd have to bark at Tallahassee, but the problem is the reporting mechanism looks archaic. The other thing is, well, you want me to do all of the work for you and put a nice, neat case together that you don't have to do anything for. That bothers me a little bit. There probably should be an investigative body. If you need to charge a little more every year for the licensing, but make the licensing worth more by making sure those that aren't doing what they shouldn't be doing, then I think that's what needs to happen.
Well, and it is done from time to time, but normally it's just say it's a gross violation problem where someone is usually issued a cease and desist letter.
Well, thank God for that, because otherwise, what's the point of having a licensed pest control operator if I can just get a restricted use license and have carte blanche with whatever I want?
That's not the same.
Yeah, they're not the same.
So we'll give you some more tips coming up about using sponges and things of that nature, too, that you throw away, that you might keep for that dry day that may come up. Stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk continues right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com. Broken air conditioner? Keep your home's AC running smoothly all year long with Easy Breezy AC. With thousands of active commercial and residential customers, Easy Breezy AC is Tampa Bay's most trusted HVAC company. Easy Breezy AC cares about those in need. Donate 2 cans of food and receive $20 off a $79 service call. Go to easybreezyac.com and use promo code GREENTHUMB for an additional $10 off your service call. Call 727-856-HVAC. Life's hard. Comfort's not. Did you know that Stan DeFreitas Mr. Greenthumb can come to your house and examine your plants, trees, and palms? His knowledge can help you become the envy of your neighborhood with lush, green, healthy trees that don't just live, but thrive. Palms and oak trees are part of what makes Florida a beautiful place to live, but they get diseases and are often cut down. We offer ways to save your trees. Call or text Stan today at 727-423-4794 or go online to askmrgreenthumb.com. That's ASKMRgreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give him a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we were talking about some different ideas of, when we do have dry times, and we do.
Well, you mentioned sponges, so that might be a good place to
everybody
start.
throws your old sponge away, right, when it gets to a certain point. You could use it, keep it in your garden area, and say, okay, I'll keep it really wet. You're going to be gone for the weekend somewhere.
I see where you're going.
And you could use it around the plant to help pull up moisture, because often a plant gets past what we call a critical wilt point. And when it gets past that point, you can see it in the plant. The plant goes, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's ready to go. You need to keep it past that point and keeping moisture there, either by wicking or the sponge. But I figured everybody has a sponge. We all go, God, I hate to throw it away, but I don't want to use it anymore on my dishes because it's starting to crack and fall apart.
Right.
We all get that. So that's something you could do that might be an idea to keep those plants alive. You put that much effort to keep something in the ground. You want to keep things going.
Sure.
Or if you live in an apartment or a condominium or townhouse, often you've got very small spaces, and maybe the irrigation doesn't hit everything that well.
Sure. And I think people should be mindful of that. And of course, when you say the word sponge, it makes me think of the sponge docks. And for those of you that may be new to Florida, go check out our Grecian brethren over, and of course, we're not related to them, but we love everybody on this show. And go check out Tarpon Springs and the sponge docks. Go have some Greek food. Go hang out with some Greek people. They're wonderful people.
Oh, yeah.
And they have an unbelievably great culture. And of course, I believe they still harvest the sponges as they did many moons ago today, as they did then.
I think so. I mean, if you want to get a real, sponge, and you can have all the manufactured ones you want. The old real sponge are, to me, far superior.
Well, and not only that, but it connects you to a bygone time. It still takes skill to do this. And again, it's supporting local culture and customs. And to me, it's a beautiful thing. And again, as I say, we love all cultures on this show. And make it a day. Go over there and check it out.
I always say, kidding with my doctor, my old doctor buddy, my old tennis friend, Dr. Marcoux. I'm always either saying Kalimera or Kalinikta this evening. And so I learned a little bit of Greek, but not a lot. But I know enough, like in Spanish, I can say a few words. I can say a few words in Japanese. It's always fun if you can go somewhere. Most people like it if you can say a couple of words in their language, because at least they know you.
Yeah. Well, and then, of course, if we're staying on the Greek theme, when I was in Athens a number of years ago now, I took a tour in Athens, and of course, it's a little shocking to see all of these ancient relics, these structures, and see how close they are to normal civilization. I mean, it's like, here's something that's been here for 3,000 years, and then, by the way, here's a brand new apartment complex 50 feet away. It's just weird. But yeah, that's kind of what's happened. It's not unique to Greece either. If you go to Rome or any of the other places, you'll be shocked at how modern everything is around these amazingly old buildings.
Property's property. Some real estate agents out there going, hey, I can double, triple, quadruple the money.
Property is property for sure. But what's interesting, though, is that, our tour guide, they were really, at the time, they were really fighting it. And again, this is kind of a hats off to the Travel Cats that do a show. I'm not sure if it's on AM 860. Brian, you, as our producer, you probably know how to... Okay, Thank you. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Well, I was trying to give them a promo, but cannot do that. But Brian will edit this out.
Well, there are many services.
There are lots of travel agent companies out there that you can go see. And but anyways, if you're in Athens, they were at the time. I took a tour, and the lady, they were trying to fight, foreign people that were giving tours, because it's a thing. It's a real thing in Greece to have a Greek person being around to give the tours about ancient Greece and all the things that are taking place. Now, all of the road signs in Greece, of course, are in Greek. But then what's really cool is they passed a statute that mandated that they had to have the signs also in English. So the travel person said, listen, don't look at me and tell me you can't find out where you're going, and then use the phrase, it's all Greek to me. So,
Cha-ching.
cha-ching. So yeah, interesting place. And if you do get a chance, beyond the Tarpon Springs sponge docks, if you get a chance to go to Greece, then definitely do that. Try to go there when they're not having a strike taking place on their transportation. I happened to be there when they were striking, so I couldn't get a taxi cab. I couldn't take the train. I couldn't take a bus. I couldn't do anything. And eventually the hotel had to send a limousine to come pick us up for a couple €100. And I found that to be rather expensive. So, but needless to say, yeah. And other than that, then, watching people, it was a weird experience, being there when we were there, because we stayed at a hotel called the Hotel Grand Britannia. And, I'm up on the rooftop bar having an adult cocktail, and I'm seeing people, protesting in front of the Parliament building, which was right across the street. So it's weird seeing broken glass and Molotov cocktails being thrown while you're sitting there drinking in the safety of being on a, 10-story building looking over at the carnage. But rest assured, that was an oddball time for me to be there, and I don't think that is an everyday occurrence.
Not indicative of what typically happens.
I don't
right?
think so.
Yeah.
I don't think that's indicative of what typically happens.
Well, it's the same thing. Well, we've been to Rome, and I thought Rome's a beautiful city. I actually thought Florence was more interesting than Rome. But Rome, of course, you want to see the Colosseum, and you want to see all the old ruins, the old antiquity of the buildings there, and it's kind of fun to walk around a place that has been, such a cradle of our civilization. And of course, you'd have to go back to the Greeks as well on that. And as far as the Greeks will tell you, hey, they stole all their good ideas from us, but maybe concrete was one of the. You see, you were going back to your Roman roots yesterday.
Well, the Romans, I think you can definitely look at the Colosseum as being, because the Romans invented concrete, for sure. So yeah, that's certainly something that a lot of the things that we take for granted today are just because we've and again, Google and YouTube and everything. I mean, think about how much knowledge has been spread over the last 20 years that was only hand-me-down knowledge from father to son or from mother to daughter. It's the amount of information out there is amazing if you have the time to learn it. Now, I think a lot of people out there don't have the time to watch a video to learn how to do something because they're busy doing what they were trained to do. And I think that it's, in some cases it's irritating because maybe you do know how to do it, and you know that you could watch the video and you probably could learn how to do it, but you just don't have the time to do it. So I'm sure a lot of people are in that camp where they're frustrated as they're going, well, I know I'm overpaying, but still going to have the plumbing company come out and do what they do. And the reason we're all overpaying for that is we've long since not put the kind of value on trade skills that we should have. So, right. So that's why, one of the things that people tend to look at when they call Stan or myself to come look at their trees, as Stan likes to point out, we're not cheap, but we're cheaper than having to have the tree removed. And, so yeah, we typically have a $250 consultation fee. One of the cool things with us, though, is we take that $250 consultation fee and we actually apply it towards treatment. So we're not just telling you what's wrong with it, we're proactively helping you fix the problem on the tree so that you can keep the tree and all the benefits of the tree. Because at the end of the day, what happens when a tree gets infected with, let's say, tree borers, is you have a weakened tree. And, we've had some storms and we've had some hurricanes, but what we're really after is to try to prevent you from tree failure. So, and, that's where we get into potential litigation. And that's not something that you want to even have to consider. You don't want to have to put in a claim with your homeowner's insurance or any of that, because that's typically what they're going to try to go after, is who potentially is insuring you for these potential problems.
And I would also say one of the sidebar businesses that we are in, and I'm in, and you're with me by extension, is the eminent domain business. We get involved with knowing the value of the trees and shrubs in a take area. And if they ever come through to widen your property to put in a widened road or a school or a police station or library, whichever they wish to do, the government has the right to do it. Now, some people call me and say, well, do you know some good, people in the business, good attorneys? And we do. I have a handful of attorneys that I can recommend to you. I have some that I will definitely not recommend to you, but I have a few that I will recommend to you if you want to call me, and that's 727-423-4794. That's my number. Same number you can get us when you want us to come out and look at your tree.
Right.
But we get involved with that, and I can almost always tell you that I've come across, and some of the jargon you see on television, and I think it's correct, you're probably better to have legal representation in almost anything that has to go to court. Because if you don't, you're playing in their sandbox.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean I think every attorney is more of a genius than you are.
Right.
In fact, I'd say I've seen some plumbers and electricians that were just as smart as the attorney. The attorney went to law school.
Right.
If you asked that attorney to help hook up your 220, he'd probably be, fried like a
fried chicken
in the top of the roof. And sometimes they've tried that, and they have, because sometimes people will assume all skills are transferable.
They're not.
And not saying they can't be, but in most cases, you're going to have to dedicate a portion of your time to learn almost anything.
Yeah, and even in the legal field, I mean, I was talking to a good attorney friend of mine this morning, actually, and he and I, just because he practices, real estate law, it doesn't necessarily mean that he would be a good person to go, say, immediately into eminent domain law. He was telling me, well, man, I'd really have to do a lot of research to try to figure out all the odds and ends of that, because it's not really an area that I've specialized in. And, that's one of the things, too, that we've done in this country. Like in England and Canada, there probably are specialty attorneys, too. But generally, they seem to have more of a broader, that's a barrister. And that barrister kind of handles this broad category of problems. Here, we tend to get into just very specific areas of law where people become super experts in those areas of law, whether it be malpractice, eminent domain, personal injury. Those, people get really good at those areas. And they do so for a reason, because it's so complicated and there's so much to know.
So that's the reason, attorneys have specialized in certain areas.
Right.
And it often gives them the leg up. They don't have to go do
right. And if you need wills
research
or trust, Patrick L. Smith on Saturday mornings, that's a guy you want to definitely write his name down, because he's a great attorney and one that you will want to check out.
So anyway, stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk continues here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, aflre.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at staffordtreesvc.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside, in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here to help you with any of your problems. I was reading a little thing here in this magazine. It's called Fine Gardening, and I sometimes look at these magazines because they give you good ideas, great ideas. One of them was, we need to change that filter on your dryer, get the lint and stuff off of there. And you go, what do I do with it? Well, if you're having a slug problem, it's been reported by one person that you can take it and kind of make like a ring with it around your little favorite plant, and it acts like a little moat that the slug doesn't want to go over the lint for whatever reason. And it could kind of give you a protection, probably hold a little bit of moisture, and it's going to be just particles, so it's going to break down.
I wouldn't have thought of that. That's an interesting one. We do want to mention that we are still selling a wonderful condo that is available in St. Pete. It's really good value for money. And it's located at 1900 59th Avenue North, Unit 112 in St. Pete, Florida. Zip code 33714 for those that might want to go check it out. And again, you can just literally go to your computer and you can type in 1900 59th Avenue North, Unit 112 into a Google search, and it will come up. So I do want to, put that out there. It's a great unit. It's being offered at 145.5, and of course it's being offered by my brokerage, Dream It Real Estate. And it's one of these things where it's a very quiet 55 and up community. A lot of great people that live there. It's the space in there is very intimate. It does have an elevator in case you make friends on the second and third floors. Of course, this unit's on the first floor, which is great for people that maybe don't want to climb stairs. So that's a big thing. And as I get older, and as I know for you, stairs have become more of a pain. So having a ground floor unit is
I'd actually consider it if I were looking at it, because I have stairs and I hate stairs. I have to pull myself up my stairs now.
Right.
And so it's funny, when I moved in there 20 years ago, I could just skip up those stairs and go up my other flight of stairs, and it was like nothing.
Right.
Now I got to look for the rail.
Well, you could run right up them up until March of 2016, and then by May of 2016, you just couldn't do it anymore. So that's the story of that. So a lot of things can happen in a very short period of time that can totally mess up your life forever. So that's the bulletin of the day.
I would say one of the things you may also want to do if you're trying to do cuttings, some plants, if you want to take a little cutting of something, go buy some indole-butyric acid. It's called rutone or root hormone. And it will increase your chances, because there's nothing more frustrating than taking a little cutting and then you try to grow it and then it doesn't, or you put it in the water. Well, eventually the water gets some bacteria in it and the little cutting dies in the water. Or you don't move it from there into the soil, which is what you need to do after a short period of time. So one of my tips, that the reason professionals do so much better than you do, is that they get some rutone, which you can buy at any nursery, almost garden supply store. It's not very expensive.
Big box stores carry it?
They should. Now, you may have to make sure they know. They may have to order it for you.
Yeah, I was going to say,
because
they may not have them.
They may not, but if you go in there and see the garden shop manager or store manager and say, here's what I'm looking for. And I usually go right talk to somebody, because if somebody tells me no, or they just kind of wave and, look down there, nothing pisses me off more than somebody to tell me, it's on aisle 5. I get to aisle 5 looking for something, whatever it may be. And then they go, oh, no, it's not aisle 5. It's where you came from, aisle 13, back over there on that side of the store.
Right.
Then I'm really kind of livid.
Well, what's upsetting to me about any of the big box stores, and I don't discriminate, is the individual task of the employee working at said box store. Whatever their task is for the day seems to be infinitely more important than helping the consumer find the object that they were looking for in the store, that they probably are in the process of restocking or something of that nature. But the entire process of existing as an employee in a store is because the consumer came in to potentially buy that said item, And so, and then they have no problems whatsoever sitting back and saying, oh, well, I've got to finish stocking this shelf today, and I'm not really, it's on aisle 3, bay 2, and then you spend all the time looking for it. And so that's always, that's an interesting way that they operate. And while I'm on my little soapbox of things that kind of irritate me, I won't mention them by name either, but some of the shipping companies, I've called some of the big shipping companies out there, and I won't mention their names, but one of the things that really irritates me is I was trying to check on a package. Well, I didn't have my tracking number. I didn't have my door tag ID number. I didn't know where it was, but I wanted to still track down a package. And by default, their system is set up to hang up on you rather than connect you to a person. And I guess the bean counters at said shipping company didn't want to spend money by sending you to a person who might be able to help you. But I kept thinking to myself, how could that be what you would want in a business where you get hung up on? Because I've never wanted to go to the next shipping company that competes with them faster than I did when the default was to hang up on me. I think that is a travesty of business management, business 101 management. So I think that's just something that needs to be improved upon universally. So one of the things I might mention too is with the Ask Mr. Greenthumb shows that we do, one of the things you might want to do is, let's say you can't catch us from 8 to 9. Or 8 to 9 on Saturday evenings. Maybe the thing is you can catch us when it's convenient to you. Well, you can certainly download we can download the program from Apple Podcasts. That's an area where we put up all of the shows and we make sure that people can catch us when it's convenient for them. So that is a benefit that I'm not sure a lot of people are utilizing. I think maybe the younger audience is using it, and probably we're seeing, the seniors are starting to come into it because, again, nobody's busier than somebody who claims that they're retired. So, I always find it funny. All of my friends that are starting to retire, it was easier to get a hold of them when they were working. And I don't exactly understand how the R word makes you busier.
Well, one of your friends said he retired at 38 or 12 or 13. I forget when he said he first retired, but
yeah.
He's one of those guys. Every time you talk to him, it keeps getting lower.
I'm not sure he ever really worked, but okay, well, I'll take your word for it that he did.
There has been reports that he worked up to 3 or 4 days in his early life.
And I know exactly the person you're referring to, and he talks about this wonderful house that he lives in Oldsmar. And the only problem with it is that when you tell that to somebody who's also a real estate agent, I'm pretty good at looking up property records. And the issue that I have with this person's statement is that if it's your house and you're complaining about the taxes and that kind of thing and how expensive it is, it would be so much more meaningful if you actually own the house and it wasn't in your parents' name. So,
and they're still there, by the way.
Yeah. But again, you live your dream. Live your dream and don't let the facts get in the way of your dream.
Hey, never heard a good story.
That's right.
So we were talking about some ideas. I never thought about using the lint around a plant in a little ball, since we all have to get lint out of the dryer. And you make a little ball around, where you're worried about that slug getting across it. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good idea. So,
yeah, that is a very good idea.
Recycling at its best.
Yeah.
So another little tip there. And of course, the other idea is if you don't have irrigation that's really good, and nobody seems to have perfect irrigation, and you want those plants to live, make a little wicking system while you're gone for that weekend or you're gone for the week, which all of us, it seemed like we break away for at least a week. And a week during dry time is just long enough for your little tiny plants and containers to die.
I agreed. And the other thing I find, and I don't know if others feel this way, but one of the things that annoys me is when you know that you've paid a lot of money to have a great irrigation system installed in your community, and you spent all this money, and then you get this huge rain and it's lasted all day, and then the sprinkler system still comes on after the fact that it's rained all day, and then you're thinking to yourself, well, how can that be? We just spent all this money, and then somehow our metering device is not catching the fact that it doesn't need to turn on that day. So to me, it feels incredibly wasteful.
Well, it is. I would invest, as I have, a little tensometer, and it actually collects any rainwater, and it'll shut the system off if you have rain.
But I'm being told by a lot of professionals that those things don't always work well. and that
Nothing ever works always well.
Well, true, but it's one of those things where maybe they need to have some redundancy built into the process if they know that system is flighty. So who knows? But I will say in the next hour that we're coming up on, or the next show rather, we are going to be sitting down with Kelly Stafford, Mr. Stafford Tree Service, and that's going to be a great show because we have tons of questions to ask her about what to expect as the season comes forward with having hurricanes and everything that people should be getting prepared for. Because now it's being proactive now to get yourself ready so that you don't have a problem. So with that noise, I'll let you take it away.
Well, we're going to mention that you're listening, of course, to us every week here on AM 860. If it's trees, shrubs, plants, and the like, if it's real estate, we're here to help answer those questions, and we like to hear back from you. We like feedback. Remember, we're here every week here on AM 860, The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com.